Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Welcome, everybody, to Building My Legacy podcast today. I have with me today Megan Nolan. Megan is fascinating to me because she has a yoga company. She instructs people. She does groups. She does online. She does corporate. And so I wanted to have her come on our Legacy podcast because if we're going to enjoy that retirement, enjoy a legacy, we need to take our health with us. And so many of us are so busy getting to that end that the health gets left way in the back. And I know that's one of my struggles. So I wanted Megan to come on and talk a little bit about what she does with people, coaching and training. But more specifically, she also has programs for corporate world to bring exercise, stretching, yoga into the workplace so people can really be putting that into their life. It's that work-life connection that she provides. So, Megan, with that, I will let you take off from there and tell us about how you got started on this journey and some of what you have learned is really important.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to share. So I have been doing personal training and teaching yoga for 16 years. And a few years into it, I was working at a fitness facility and I had just completed my yoga teacher training. And so I was doing personal training and teaching yoga, and I was practicing a very vigorous style of yoga where you do a lot of kind of push-up actions. It's called Ashtanga yoga. And so in addition to that, sorry, my dog is dreaming if you hear some funny noises. In addition to that, I was learning how to box. So moral of the story, I was spending a lot of time in this sort of rounded, slouched posture. And my hands went numb. It started in one hand and then it made its way up to my elbow and then it went to the other side. And it was quite alarming, obviously. And so I went to a physiotherapist and a chiropractor, and they all had one thing to say: it's your posture. And so even though I didn't have a sedentary desk job, I was presenting with symptoms of someone who did, because I was in that sort of rounded, in that classic sort of boxing posture or in a more rounded position because of the style that I was practicing in. So thankfully, the physical therapist that I was able to work with opened my eyes to a style of treatment where you bring the body back into balance by stretching the muscles that are tight, activating the muscles that are weak. And he was using this a lot with his patients that were sitting. And so I started to use these tools first in myself to bring sensation back to my hands, and then also with my clients who were presenting with the exact same situation because they worked at a desk all day. And so that's where I became really interested in this, combining both the modality of fitness and exercise and stretching, because it is a balance of both. Much like you mentioned, it's a work-life balance. It's a balance of both tension and strength of the muscles, because we don't want to be all like loosey-goosey, and we don't want to be overly tight because that's where we have pain. And so bringing the body back into balance, that was where I became really interested in this and using these tools to help people. And so along the way, have been integrating that into my personal training, as well as my yoga classes and private sessions. And so I have been sharing a lot of that with my workplace wellness clients here on Maui. And so I have, obviously it changed forms quite a bit last year, but was working with a lot of different businesses here, different types of businesses. For example, the Maui Electric Company, so people that are out and on their feet all day, and many different financial institutions where they're spending a lot of time counting other people's money and getting very stressed out about it. And so helping them have these tools to keep their body strong and healthy, because when it comes down to it, our body is not really well designed to sit for extended periods of time, and it complains when we do. And we probably can all identify some pains in the neck or the lower back, or, various aches and pains that result from sitting and basically slouching. I don't want to say it, but it happens a lot when people sit down. And so it really has an effect on our productivity, our performance, our energy, our mood, our stress level, our immunity. All of those things are either positively or negatively affected by our body and how we feel. So I've taken it upon myself to share these tools with people because it's so, so important and really essential.
We don't think about it until it breaks, until there's a problem, right? And I think it's sitting at the desk. But the other thing that I notice is hauling luggage on and off planes. I find that has a tremendous wear and tear, especially on the back, because you're twisting all the time and pulling kind of at a different angle. So there's lots of what we do in the work world that is not so good.
True. And being driven and being goal focused, people can really get into that workspace and continuously work for extended periods of time and barely even standing up, let alone taking a break to drink water. So these can be really taxing on our body now and long term. And they actually do directly affect brain function, which of course, your brain is involved in every decision you make, every idea you have, every interaction you have. And so unknowingly, we are kind of slowing ourselves down by being sedentary, by sitting and being kind of stuck in that chair for so many hours.
So one of the things that you do is you take your exercise program literally into companies to help them figure out how to keep their employees healthy. What got that started? And I can see it having an incredible impact on productivity. But how did it get started? And what do you do when you go in? People are dressed in heels if you're women and suits if you're men. And so I'm envisioning all these blue and black suits and women in high heels exercising. So what do you do?
You're close. I do have them take their high heels off. But yes, that's a great question. And so how it got started was, I live in Maui, and Maui itself in Hawaii it's kind of a bit of a mecca for people that love to have healthy wellness lifestyles. And so there was, 1,000,001 yoga studios here and 1,000,001 yoga teachers. And so in an interest in not only just being able to differentiate myself, I saw a gap, because I know that in many other areas, it was very commonplace for people to have workplace wellness services, and no one was doing it here. And so I kind of hopped on the opportunity and was able to connect with an initiative that was bringing healthy habits to people. And one of those was staying healthy in the workplace. And so it opened the door for me to talk with a variety of different businesses that as I mentioned, and many others that you may not expect, that wanted to make sure that their team was healthy and happy. And so we can do it in a variety of different ways. Some were in a more traditional sense where people would wear yoga or exercise clothes. They would have a yoga mat. We do, kind of more traditional laying on the mat stretches and stuff like that for anywhere from an hour to a half an hour. And then most of them were little yoga breaks, what I would call just sort of either at the beginning or the middle or the end of their workday, where I would come in. And as you said, people are wearing their work clothes. And so it's a different experience, right? Because, when you're wearing a dress shirt, you're not as mobile as you would be. Right,
your buttons burst.
Yes, exactly. And we don't want to have that. We want everyone feeling good and comfortable. And so a lot of times we would do it literally in the boardroom and use the chair, use the desk. And I am at a little bit of an advantage because of where I live. Everything's more of an aloha casual rather than a full business attire. So it wasn't as suits and ties as maybe other locations. But people are definitely dressed for work. And so it's more of a gentle mobilization, stress reduction with breathing techniques is a huge part of it, because we're so often in that busyness of our mind and we're in that stress state. And even just simple, it seems so simple. And we're always looking for this advanced strategy of how do I fix it? How do I get better? it's so simple, but it's so powerful, is to breathe slowly and deeply. And it's actually one of the direct ways to reduce your stress. And so your listener counts and breathing out of your mouth slowly for 4 or 5 counts and repeating that a few times, it directly affects your nervous system. So our sessions would include a lot of that, as well as potentially more mindfulness or meditation techniques if that's what they were interested in. So they're very customizable.
So a company who wants to be thoughtful and be proactive about their employees' health, I think many of us go to the gym and pound out whatever we can on the treadmill as fast as we can because, we can check it off the box and the treadmill is fast. We burn calories and we feel like we accomplished something. But it has its also long-term impact on knees, on hips, on backs. So what's the most thoughtful way of approaching your care of your body for so you're healthy when you're ready to retire?
As you mentioned, there is a direct benefit of doing cardio, which is really, really essential for joints with the repetitive impact of running. So doing some form of cardio is essential, but it's really good to balance it with strength training. So strength training can be done in the more traditional style, like many of us do, either with free weights or machines, if you have access to a gym currently, or resistance bands is another great way to do that. But a lot of people underestimate yoga in the benefits of it because they think, oh, it's just stretching and I'm just trying to, contort myself and look like a Cirque du Soleil pretzel. And that's missing the point because the weight bearing aspect of yoga. So anytime you are standing up, you're weight bearing. Because you are weight bearing, because you're standing in a lot of the poses, within 10 seconds, your bone starts to increase the bone matrix. And so you start to actually build more bone cells very quickly, which for women, and as we're aging, is very important. Any human body, it's important to do that, but especially for women, as well as the way that yoga is designed is quite innately, very, very intrinsically, you go in muscles to be able to hold the posture. The opposite side of the joint is getting stretched and flexible. And then you turn and you do the other side, or you do flip it upside down or what have you. And so you're always going back and forth between stretching and strengthening, stretching and strengthening. So you're actually getting a very well balanced level of tension and mobility. So yoga is really great for that. So I do suggest that people sort of have a little dabble across that whole range because they each have their benefits. And if you just do one, then you're missing out on the other. So that's kind of the benefit of doing cross training, if you will, so that if you love to go for walks, do that. Make sure you're stretching a little bit, or Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga, whatever you like is definitely something that feeds your soul and brings you joy. Then that's something to continue, right? We don't want to be putting ourselves through the paces if we don't like it, because then it's not as fun for us. So whatever you find to be fun and also helpful and leaves your body feeling strong and energized rather than exhausted and in pain is obviously the direction you want to go.
The whole notion of bone density, bone strength, that's getting a lot of attention, I think, now as people are looking towards living longer but wanting to be healthy when they get older, right? And so I was just speaking with somebody in their early 30s this week, and they said, yep, I'm going to go get my bone density checked. And so there's an awareness earlier on about the impact of that, or the correlation between that and healthy bone structure later in life. There's more thoughtfulness about that, I think, today.
There is, and it's actually interesting that you bring that up because that is definitely correlated to sitting, because our body is more apt to, and it thrives when we're standing up and we're in that load-bearing position. So your bones are bearing the load of your body and gravity. That doesn't happen when you sit down. And so we're starting to see a gradual decrease in bone density and muscle mass in people that sit for significant periods of time. So they foresee that being an issue for people that sit and don't do that alternating between sitting and standing, or don't do load-bearing exercises, throughout their day. And load bearing exercise is, sort of a broad term. It basically means anytime you're standing up and moving your body in some way or not moving your body. It's when you have to put load on your body. So when you're sitting down, most of the load goes on your lower back, and that's where you have the tension and the pain. So I'm really glad to hear that that's becoming a conversation, because it is so essential. And we see that in what we perceive to be the general trajectory of aging of the human body. We see that sort of gradual slouching that we tend to see and associate with people of later age, but that's not a necessary, essential, and inevitable destination for all of us, by no means. And that happens because to move into the opposite range of motion, stretching front side as well as activating will help us to be in that upright, strong posture for many decades to come. Whereas if people aren't doing that and they're constantly just slouching over the computer, then we will see that inevitable decline. And we're starting to see children that are constantly using devices. And so it's actually quite alarming to see how it's trickling into the younger generations as well.
Fascinating. So here's one of the things that I loved about you, Megan, when we first talked, is you are very flexible, very versatile, and you are willing to help put together programs for people also via Zoom, so that we don't have to be in Maui to enjoy your wisdom and your coaching for yoga. So tell us a little bit about that and how that works.
Absolutely. So that can be done on an individual level. If you would like to, work directly together and do personal training as well as exercise or yoga or a melange of all of that. And then obviously for your team as well. So that can be done, as you mentioned, that's the beauty of this. We're all so grateful for Zoom at this point, right? You could set up a time where your whole team logs on to the Zoom meeting, and if they're comfortable, we can have our cameras on. Some people aren't comfortable with that, so you can definitely, obviously that would impact how much guidance I can give you, but and suggestions as far as modifications. But making it a fun, engaging in experience, so that fun together and have come together remotely, obviously, and have a fun experience, have a team building experience that then nourishes their body, which then impacts their clarity, their focus, their decision making, their creativity, their productivity. All of that is benefited by exercise and yoga. And so we can do that, remotely with your team, or if everyone is coming together in a socially distanced fashion, then we can do that if you're all in one spot as well. And then, of course, it's designed to meet your needs. So if you want your team to be focusing on fine-tuning their focus so they can pay attention and stay on task, then we talk more about different tools, such as different aspects of meditation, but using words that people feel comfortable with, because sometimes people are intimidated by meditation, or people that are only exclusively using the proper terms for the yoga poses. And because of my experience of many years and also diversity of teaching environments, I'm very well versed in speaking to people where they're at and making them feel comfortable. And so the sessions are customized for your team based on what you would like them to experience but what they're asking for, and also for their job, because who is on their feet all day usually presents with a different set of aches and pains than somebody who's sitting down for most of the day. So the sessions are customized to really meet the need of your team, but also the environment that they're working in.
So one of the things that we're hearing a lot right now in the corporate world is, despite all of what we've done with trying to improve the workplace, actually people are coming back more stressed, more overwhelmed, and less engaged than before COVID. So it's gone, the stress level is at about 80 to 85% right now, very high level. So are there exercises you can provide that people could just go through 5-10 minutes, chill out a little bit, get their space back together, and get refocused? Can some of what you do help with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it helps rather quickly. As I mentioned before, something to start with you can do it anywhere at any time is awareness of your breath. So breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth or the nose, whatever feels better for you. Very just slowing it down, becoming aware of the breath and tuning into that. And then anything that allows you to move out of this sort of rounded slouched posture, which actually does impact our stress levels, because when we are in that slouched position, our ability to breathe deeply goes down by about 30%, which is significant when it comes to oxygen levels. And so that means there's less oxygen to the brain. And when you're breathing in a more short and shallow pattern, that in and of itself triggers stress. So even just as simple as really sitting up quite tall, if your space allows, reaching your arms out and lifting your chest up a little bit. And if it feels okay in your neck, you can lift your chin up and just stretching yourself out, trying to make yourself as big and wide as possible. Take a couple big deep breaths and then just staying in this more upright posture when you go back as well. Even just as simple as standing up and, lifting one knee up towards your chest and putting it down, and then the other one, just getting some blood flow into the lower body, because when we sit, that's when we start to have that slowing down of our circulation, our oxygen, all of that. So those are really simple things that you can start with. And then I do have a program that's really easy and accessible. It's called Yoga at My Desk. And it's literally yoga breaks that are anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 minutes. And then there's some longer ones that you can do either before or after work to energize your body and then unwind tension. But the bulk of the sessions are 2 to 3 minutes long. And so it's a good way to get like a little bit of a pick-me-up, energize your body, helping to calm your mind, because that state of overwhelm comes from our body. And then we're in this position of stress and concern and overwhelm because our brain is just kind of going on hyper overdrive. But if we just take a few minutes doing some of these breathing techniques, you will already start to feel more relaxed. And it gives you that sort of, that expression of, oh, just take a deep breath. You're literally just taking a deep breath, and it affects your nervous system rather quickly. And so it does help you to feel more calm. And then it affects how you interact with your coworkers and your partner and your family and all of that. So even just as simple as a couple big deep breaths, but there's a lot of ways you can move that into your day for sure.
Okay, Megan, what have we not talked about that people should know about being healthy, about, really living a lifestyle that they respects themselves and their own bodies?
I would say, and especially for your audience, that it's important to remember that the ROI on self-care is a lot higher than you might expect, because the cost of injury and illness is significant. The cost of stress is significant. And it's one of those preventative measures that is worth your time, and it will help you feel better right away, throughout the day, the next day, the next day. And so it has a beautiful ripple effect. Therefore, the ROI on it is very, very worth your time, because as you said, if we're just pushing ourselves to get to the end result, and we get to the end result and we just literally crash at the finish line, what's the point? And it's really being able to do our best and show up and serve our community and reach your goals. But it's also ultimately about you being able to enjoy your life. And if you take steps to ensure the quality of your life now, then you will have more quantity of your life, because you won't be stressed out and, more likely to get sick and all the things that happen with that. Then you're able to, extend your life, hopefully, and enjoy the quality of your life and have that improve. So it's definitely worth your time. And on that note, if you don't have a lot of time, even a few minutes is really beneficial, because especially in, high achieving communities, we tend to get into this like, oh, well, if I can't do it, it's not worth doing it all. And if I can't do it 100 billion%, then it's not worth doing it all. And that's not the best mindset to have with it. Ideally, you give yourself 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week. But if you don't have that, do 5 minutes. And if you don't have 5 minutes, take 3 deep breaths. Like, it's really whatever you can make time for. And if you schedule it into your day, you're more likely to do it. Because if you prioritize your health, then everything else becomes easier and more fluid throughout your day.
You know what, Megan, I love that perspective. And just listening and having talked with you, it helps me to refocus on really thinking about how am I taking care of myself, because days can go by and I go, my goodness, all I have done is to sit and produce work. and I haven't really taken care of myself at all, not even with good nutrition, much less exercise. So it's so important to think about. Megan, you've talked about a number of things that you offer, and we will put information about you in the show notes and how to contact you, and also some of your courses, so that should people want to get in contact with you, they are able to do that. And so please feel free, those of you who are listening, to get in contact with Megan, and you may have fun taking a team all the way to Maui and for team building and adding a little yoga in. What a fun idea.
What a fun idea. That would be lovely. I know. Well, yeah, but down the road, we could have a yoga retreat on Maui. But in the meantime, I could take you to the beach if you'd like.
I think right now at minus 16, we'd take just about anything. So
I know, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Megan, so much for being with us. And those of you who are listening to Building My Legacy podcast today, thank you for being with us. And be sure to look for information about Megan in the show notes and visit our website at buildtomorrow.com. Thank you. Thanks, Megan.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun to chat, and take care, everybody, and make sure to take care of you too.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstagard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstagard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.